In the tranquil setting of an ancient monastery, a curious disciple seeks enlightenment from his wise monk. Imagine, if you will, a place where time seems to stand still. A place of wisdom, serenity and tranquility. It is here that our story unfolds, in the hallowed halls of an ancient monastery, where the echoes of ancient wisdom blend harmoniously with the quiet whispers of the present. Here, a disciple, eager for knowledge, approaches his venerable master with a question burning in his heart. The world outside, he says, is filled with noise and chaos. How does one find peace amidst such turmoil? The monk, a beacon of calm in the storm of the disciple's confusion, responds not with a direct answer, but with a cryptic hint. His words, like a Zen koan, are intended not to provide a straightforward solution, but to provoke deep thought and contemplation. The lotus, he says, blooms most beautifully from the deepest and thickest mud. His voice, gentle yet firm, carries the weight of centuries of wisdom. Each word, each syllable, is a drop of knowledge in the vast ocean of understanding. The disciple, intrigued, furrows his brow in deep thought. The monk's reply is not what he expected. He had hoped for a clear and simple answer, a roadmap to tranquility. But instead, he finds himself standing at the mouth of a labyrinth, with only a cryptic clue to guide him. Yet, there's a spark in his eyes, a spark of curiosity. He understands that the monk's words are not a dismissal, but a challenge. A challenge to look beyond the surface, to delve deeper into the muddy waters of life and find the lotus of peace within. Intrigued yet puzzled, the disciple decides to delve deeper into the monk's words, unknowingly embarking on a journey towards a profound Buddha lesson. As the disciple seeks further clarification, the monk begins to unravel the Buddha lesson, the Four Noble Truths, with a focus on the nature of suffering. Gently, the monk begins to share the wisdom of the Buddha, starting with the first noble truth: life is suffering, or dukkha as it is known in Buddhism. He explains, our existence is marked by a sense of unsatisfactoriness, a subtle form of suffering that permeates every aspect of our lives. This suffering isn't just about physical pain or emotional turmoil. It's about the inherent unsatisfactoriness of life that comes from our constant want for things to be different than they are. He continues, imagine you're thirsty. You drink a glass of water and for a moment, you feel satisfied. But soon, you're thirsty again. That's dukkha. It's the constant cycle of wanting, getting, and then wanting again. Moving on to the second noble truth, the monk lays out the root cause of this suffering. The origin of suffering, samudaya, lies in our desires. It is our craving for things, experiences or states of being that fuels this cycle of suffering. We long for pleasure, we long for existence, and we long to avoid pain. And it is this longing that keeps us trapped. To exemplify, the monk proposes, consider a man chasing after wealth. He believes that once he is rich, he will be happy. But once he acquires wealth, he fears losing it. His craving has not ceased, it has merely changed form. And so, his suffering continues. He concludes, when we understand that life is marked by this unsatisfactoriness, and that our desires are the fuel that feeds this fire of suffering, we begin to see the world in a different light. We start to realize that our suffering is not imposed on us by some external force. It is, in fact, a creation of our own mind. Understanding dawned upon the disciple's face as he began to comprehend the roots of his unrest. With newfound understanding, the disciple asks about the cessation of suffering. And so, the monk, in his infinite wisdom, begins to unfold the mystery of the third and fourth noble truths of Buddhism, Nirodha and Magga. The cessation of suffering, Nirodha, is not a grand event in the distant future. It is a state of being, accessible to us in the here and now, the monk gently explains. Suffering is not an eternal condition. It has an end, and that end is attained by extinguishing the three fires of greed, hatred, and ignorance that fuel it. The disciple listens, his mind open and eager. The monk continues, and how do we extinguish these fires? Through the fourth noble truth, Magga, the path leading to the cessation of suffering. This path, my dear disciple, is the noble eightfold path. The monk paints a vivid picture of this path with his words. It begins with right understanding, accepting the Four Noble Truths. Followed by right intention, the resolve to steer your mind away from the forces of desire, ill will, and harmfulness. Then comes right speech, right action, and right livelihood, the commitment to ethical conduct. The monk's voice carries the weight of centuries of wisdom as he continues. The path then leads to right effort, the cultivation of wholesome qualities and the abandonment of unwholesome ones. Then, right mindfulness, the clear awareness of our thoughts, feelings, and actions. And finally, right concentration, the development of a focused, tranquil, and insightful mind. The monk concludes, these 8 aspects of the path are not sequential stages, but interconnected facets of a complete, holistic practice. They lead to the cessation of suffering, to Nirodha, and ultimately to the attainment of Nirvana, the state of supreme liberation and peace. The disciple, now enlightened, realizes that the path to peace was not outside, but within him all along. Empowered with the Buddha lesson, the disciple wondered how to apply this wisdom in his daily life. The monk, sensing his disciple's curiosity, began to explain how to bring the Four Noble Truths into daily life. Your daily interactions, decisions, and experiences are your life. They can be guided by the principles of the Eightfold Path, which is the way to cease suffering, the monk began. Consider mindfulness, a state of active, open attention on the present. When you're mindful, you carefully observe your thoughts and feelings without judging them as good or bad. It's about living in the moment and awakening to your current experience, not dwelling in the past or anticipating the future. He continued, then there is right action, which involves ethical conduct. In all that you do, ensure that your actions are peaceful, honest, and compassionate. Avoid actions that harm others and instead focus on actions that promote well-being and harmony. The monk then touched on right speech. Your words can create peace or discord. Strive to speak truthfully, kindly, and helpfully. Avoid harmful speech such as lying or gossiping. Remember, words have power, use them wisely. Finally, he shared about right intention. This means to act with compassion and love, not driven by desire, ill will, or harm. Your intentions shape your actions, and in turn, shape your life. So, always aim to cultivate positive intentions. The monk concluded, these are just some of the practical ways to bring Buddha's teachings into your life. Remember, it's not about perfection, but about making small, consistent changes that lead you on the path to cessation of suffering. The disciple, filled with gratitude, promised to live by these teachings, ready to face life's challenges with a serene mind. And thus, the Buddha lesson became not just a philosophy, but a practical guide for living a life of peace, understanding, and compassion. As the sun set, painting the monastery in hues of gold, the disciple reflected on the profound impact of Buddha's teachings. Brimming with gratitude, the disciple approached the monk, his heart echoing with newfound wisdom. Master, he began, your teachings have opened my eyes to a new understanding of life, shedding light on the roots of suffering, and the path to its cessation. The monk listened, his face etched with the wisdom of years. He replied, my child, the wisdom you've acquired is not mine, but Buddha's. I am merely a vessel, carrying his teachings from one generation to the next. Remember, the journey to enlightenment is not a destination, but a continuous path. The disciple nodded, absorbing the monk's words. I understand, Master. The teachings of Buddha are not just about understanding suffering, but also about how to navigate through it. It's about living mindfully, acting with compassion, and striving for wisdom. Indeed, the monk responded, his eyes reflecting the glow of the setting sun. Buddha's teachings are a guiding light. They illuminate our path in life, helping us to navigate its complexities. But remember, the teachings are not a magic wand. They won't instantly clear the path of obstacles. Instead, they equip us with the wisdom to overcome them. The monk paused, letting his words sink in. Buddha's teachings are powerful, not because they change the world around us, but because they change us. They transform our perspective, our reactions, and ultimately, our lives. The disciple, deeply moved by the monk's words, bowed in respect. I will carry these teachings with me, Master. They will guide me on my journey, helping me to lead a life of mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom. The monk smiled, his gaze filled with understanding. Walk your path with diligence, my child. Remember, the journey to enlightenment is lifelong and requires continuous effort. And so, under the fading light of day, the disciple moved forward on his path, carrying with him the timeless wisdom of Buddha's teachings.